and welcome to part 3 of the Kayleigh Haywood murder. I just realised I don't think we could hear the music in the last one that I was talking about, but hopefully you can hear it in this one. So the area that Stephen Beadman took Kayleigh to was an area that he knew well because he worked in a garden centre not very far away, and it was sort of a shortcut through there. Obviously at night things would look very different. There's an area of standing water. It's hugely overgrown with nettles and trees, and it would be very difficult for anybody to find a body there unless they knew what they were looking for. Finding a body was the final thing that the police needed to charge both men. 4 police officers searched the area pinpointed by Beadman. Because search operations had finished for the day, it was dark and raining, and you can't effectively search in the dark, not with any degree of certainty that you'll find anything. After quite some time, they had still not found her. She wasn't exactly where he'd pinpointed on the map. But the police stood together and said, well, if she's here, then we can't give up. At just after 10 p.m. on the 18th of November, police found Kayleigh's body. Kayleigh was naked except for a sock, and she was in a slightly twisted position, partly on her front and sort of partly on her side. As she lay there, she had been the subject of what appeared to be a vicious and brutal assault. She had a number of injuries to the front and back of her head, as well as injuries to her hand, which would have been described as classic defence-style injuries. Police searched the area where her body was found the next day. Shortly after Kayleigh's body was found, a detective visited Kayleigh's parents to tell them the very tragic news. Kayleigh's parents broke down. Police were now able to piece together what they thought had happened to Kayleigh. What they came up with was that Kayleigh had been held in the house in Luke Harlow's home by Beadman and Harlow, and then at some point in the early hours, around 3 to 3:30 a.m, she made a break for it. She ran out of the flat and across and onto the path, and away down the path towards the main road. It was around here that Stephen Beadman had chased after and caught up with Kayleigh, who was half-dressed. He pinned her down on the ground before they both got up and went back in the direction of Luke Harlow's house. But what they did then, a short while after that, was turn around again and walk back down the path towards the main road. And they were last seen hand in hand crossing the road. And here in Sense Valley Park is where Stephen Beadman told us eventually that this is where he had raped Kayleigh Haywood during the early hours of Sunday the 15th of November, before leading her out of the car park and off onto a convoluted route across farmland to a point where he eventually killed her. On Thursday, the 19th of November 2015, 28-year-old Stephen Beadman was charged with the rape and murder of Kayleigh Haywood. 27-year-old Luke Harlow was charged with grooming and 2 counts of sexual activity with a child. While police investigated Beadman, they searched his computers and made another chilling discovery. He would access indecent images, and those were not just on his computers, but across 3 of them. There was a long history of that on there, and we were able to see that they were accessed as recently as 2 days before the murder of Kayleigh. Dr. Ruth Tully, a forensic psychologist, said some online offenders never cross into offending in real life, but others do, and it would appear that in this case, the use of online images may have fueled fantasy and been a precursor into his violent offending. Police said he spent a great deal of time online looking at porn of the most graphic and violent nature, and by pure chance he was presented with a set of circumstances where one could argue he had had the perfect opportunity to live out some of those fantasies in real life. On the 8th of June 2016, the case went to trial. Miranda Moore was the prosecuting barrister. She said that Stephen Beadman had absented himself from the trial for long periods. He didn't want to come up from the cells, so he remained below for a good part of the evidence. Stephen Beadman was wrestling with the fact that he had killed somebody. He was clearly emotionally upset during the trial, and so when he decided he wouldn't give evidence and wouldn't take part in the trial, it was almost as if he couldn't face what he had done. Luke Harlow, on the other hand, had taken the witness stand and gave evidence, and also was able to be cross-examined. He came across as feeling sorry for himself, unsympathetic to Kayleigh, and a thoroughly unpleasant young man. He also admitted to attempting to meet 2 other teenagers after grooming them online. Prosecutor Miranda Moore, QC, said Harlow had tricked the girls into thinking that they were his princess, his one and only, and he would look after them and care for them. The judge said that both girls he had targeted, other than Kayleigh, were deeply traumatised by what had happened to them. But the judge also noted that both believed he was their boyfriend, and one said that she still loved him, which she said testified to the chilling nature of online grooming. Gary Bell, QC, defending Harlow, said that his client did not know that Beadman would kill the teenager, but added she should not have been put into the path of the monster that lived next door. She should have been home in bed. He said his client had been attacked in prison and had to spend all day locked in his cell for fear of further assaults. Both men denied the one charge of false imprisonment of Kayleigh. Luke Harlow was sentenced to 12 years in prison for grooming Kayleigh and for sexual activity with a child in the Nottingham Crown Court. Only 12 years. That was almost Kayleigh's whole life. It's pretty sad to think that he'll be out of jail in such a short time, when if it wasn't for him, Kayleigh would still be alive. Stephen Beadman was given a life sentence for the rape and murder of Kayleigh, so that's a minimum of 35 years. Both men were found guilty of falsely imprisoning her at Luke's home in Ibstock. After killing Kayleigh, Beadman, who told police he had used a brick as a weapon, he conducted a Google search for Lime Pit, and he also used his computer to access a betting website. Yeah, he was struggling with it back then, wasn't he? Sorry. Detective Inspector Simon Shuttleworth, the senior investigating officer in the case, told Rutland and North Leicester, Coroner's Court, that the preliminary and provisional cause of death is head and facial injuries, pending further tests. But the further tests basically said the same thing, that was the cause of death. Leicester Police, in close liaison with Kayleigh's family, made a film called Kayleigh's Love Story to highlight the dangers of meeting strangers online. It lasts for 5 minutes and it tells the story of those 13 days during which a schoolgirl was groomed to her death. It has been watched by more than 40 million people, and children have came forward with their own grooming stories after watching this. sorry, one thing before that was meant to be said. Justice Cox told Beadman when passing his sentence, "The pain, terror and anguish that would have been suffered by this young girl is truly horrifying to contemplate." She said Kayleigh has so many serious injuries to her face that she had to be identified through her dental records. As well as the short film Kayleigh's Love Story, there is another one that is entitled Murder on the Internet, which is basically a follow-up, or not a follow-up, but like a second documentary, I should say, about, or based upon Kayleigh's disappearance, etc. I highly recommend giving both of them a quick watch. They don't go for long, but they'll bring a tear to your eye and open your eyes to a lot of things. I guess things that, we all sort of think won't happen to me or my child. Ooh, that's a worry. Mine's about to go into high school. Yay. Sorry. Anyway, thanks for listening. And I will get another one recording done soon. Thank you. Bye.